Hello, today we're in Huntington, West Virginia at Woodmere Cemetery, and we're going to visit a couple people. It's a beautiful day, beautiful sunny day, beautiful cemetery. We're visiting Virginia Ruth Egnor today, better known as Dagmar. And the stone says, in loving memory of her mother, Spicy Egnor, who was born November 10th, 1899, died November 28th, 1987. And Dagmar was born in November 29th, 1921, and lived till October 9th, 2001. It says, renowned TV star, devoted to family and to West Virginia. Daughter Mary Ann Wolfe, born in 1955, and it says, forever in our hearts. Now, she had 7 brothers and sisters. Her father's not here. Her dad's name was Ray. And she worked here in Huntington. We're in Huntington, West Virginia. And she worked here in Huntington at the Walgreens on 4th Avenue and 9th Street to help out, to raise money for her family. And she did go to Huntington Business College. And in 1940, she was visiting her aunt in New York and caught the eye of a fashion photographer, and it launched her career. So she had done some modeling in TV and was kind of set up as the dumb blonde because of her measurements. But she was very smart and intelligent. So in New York, she had gotten on a show with Olsen and Johnson called Laughing Room Only, and also had done a skit on the Texas Star Theater with Milton Berle. And her big break came in 1950 with Jerry Lester and Maury Amsterdam. You guys probably remember him. He was on the Dick Van Dyke Show, on a show called Broadway Open House. And she was so popular that she ended up being the MC of the show and went from $75 a week to $1,250, which was quite a bit in those days. And she was receiving 8,000 letters a month at the show's height. She also performed on Bob Hope's show. She had done a duet with Frank Sinatra. And Milton Berle actually said of her that she was extra talented, that she could sing and dance and throw a line like a pro. So it's coming from Milton Berle, that's quite an accolade. In 1951, she was visiting Huntington with a photographer from Life magazine named Alfred Einstead to do a short story because of her meteoric rise. I mean, she went to the top so quickly, and she thought it was going to be a little article, and it ended up being a 5-page spread, and she encompassed the entire cover of Life magazine on July 16, 1951. She was very devoted to her family and the people of West Virginia. She was here one time in 1950, and she gave $7,500 to Marshall College for cancer research. And she definitely took care of her brothers and sisters. She had put them through college and was always kind to the people of West Virginia. That she would go to nursing homes and visit people when she came back here later in life. And I'd seen an interview with her and Mike Wallace. And if you guys remember Mike Wallace from 60 Minutes, he was really pretty hard on everybody, and he was hard on her. But she held her own. But he had asked her, you know, what do you think of this blonde bombshell thing? And she said, well, I don't know. She said, some people, you know, like thin people. Some people like heavy people. She said, my family likes me the way I am, and they think I'm the cat's meow. And he said, well, you know, do you have to watch your weight? And she said, no, I really don't, because I diet 2 weeks out of every 6 months, and I lose all the weight I want to lose, and I don't really worry about it. And he said, well, would you like to tell the ladies how you do that? And she said, no, it's not from a doctor, and I don't think it's healthy. And he said, well, could you share with us what it is? And she said, well, that for 2 weeks, in the morning I have a cup of black coffee, 2 poached eggs, For dinner, I have a piece of meat and a tomato, and the first week I lose 10 pounds, and the second week I lose 3 pounds, and then I don't have to diet again for 6 months, so I really don't have to worry about my weight. And she did come back here. She moved to Connecticut until 1996, but then she came back to West Virginia and moved in with her brother Bob Egnor, and she passed away on October 9th, 2001. And in 1998, she was inducted into the Huntington Wall of Fame that is at the Civic Center here in town. And in 1999, she was inducted in to be one of Huntington's most influential people during the 20th century. So she grew up poor and made it big. So she never forgot her roots. There were 7 children in the Egnor family, 1 entertainer, 2 lawyers, 1 airline stewardess, and the others married and had families of their own. And she did buy her family a home here in Huntington because they were very poor, and we're going to go take a look at that home. I couldn't come to Woodmere Cemetery today without visiting my precious grandmother and grandfather, Avery G. and Iva G. Spurlock. My grandfather was born in 1899 and died in 1972, and my grandmother, which I could not say grandmother, so I called her Gaki, and that was her name for her entire life. She was born in 1907 and died in 1986. It says together forever. This was my dad's parents, and as you can see, my grandmother outlived my grandfather for quite a few years. And my grandmother was she was a pistol. She, you can see that she was born in 1907, but she was a go-getter. She was a business owner. She owned her own restaurant here in Huntington in the Beverly Hills area, the Gallier Village area, called the Beverly Grill. And she ran that place. My grandfather helped her, but she was actually the runner. And she would lift huge, heavy cases of drinks and put them in the coolers, and she just took care of everything. She also purchased a building here in Huntington, and she lived upstairs with my grandfather and had rented the bottom area to the post office for years. And my mom and dad lived in the other apartment building, and I lived with them until I was 2 years old. And then my dad built a home in another part of town. But I have a picture of my grandmother in the 1920s that I'll show you when she's 16 years old. And Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer, MGM, came to Huntington looking for new stars, and you will see by that picture that she is the epitome of a flapper. And that was during the talk, when there were no talkies, the silent films, the flapper was the thing. And they wanted her to come to California for a screen test, and she was only 16 years old, and you had to be 18 years old to be considered an adult. And her mother would not sign the agreement for her to go, so that never came to fruition. Of course, I might not be here today if she had moved to California and became an actress. But it's so good to see them today. I wish she was here. I love and miss them. Now, this is the actual apartment building that my grandmother owned that we had just talked about. And like I said, we lived upstairs in this front apartment, and look at the little balcony out over the street. But my grandmother lived here after my grandfather died. And up over the hill, I don't know if you can notice, there's some houses up there. And the little old man started to come to visit her. And he was actually probably his late 80s. He was in the First World War, and he started to visit her, and they started dating, and they got married. I remember standing up in their wedding. She was in her early 80s, he was in his late 80s. It was so cute. I remember them. And so I know what she was thinking. He had a nice home up over the hill, and she couldn't probably just, you know, decided she's not going to be able to climb the stairs to this apartment building later, you know, as old as she was, and it'd be a good financial decision to go ahead and move into his home. And she did that. So I do remember them sitting in their Barca loungers or their recliners back in that day, and this is Galierville, what they would do was watch Hee Haw and Lawrence Welk. As a matter of fact, right over there where you see that kind of orangey building, that's where her restaurant was, the Beverly Grill, earlier. So she sold this apartment building and moved in with him. And they were married for several years, and my aunt and my grandmother decided to take a trip on the Cass Railroad, which is here in West Virginia. It's a scenic trip. It doesn't really go anywhere. It goes up into the mountains, and then halfway there that you stop and you go to the restroom and you get something to eat and you come back. Well, when they got there, they didn't realize you were going to have to climb quite a few stairs to get something to eat and go to the bathroom. So they did that. They got on the train, they came back, and my grandmother died that night. So, you know, I always felt like that's the way I want to go. Go on vacation, come home and die that night, and no lingering. So, and I do remember her funeral. I was living in Charlotte, North Carolina, so I came home for the funeral. Her husband that she had married was still alive, and bless his heart, he was just so upset. He just fell on me and just cried, and it was so sad. And I have seen, now that was years ago, as you could tell by the gravestone, and he died after that. My parents took care of him, got his groceries. He never had driven, didn't have a driver's license, so Mom and Dad would get his groceries and care for him until he died. And I was driving through here not long ago, several years ago, and saw some folks outside and started talking to them, and they owned the building. And as you can see downstairs, she has, let me see if I can zoom in, got the leg lamp in the window, Christmas trees. It's so cute. She had a little store downstairs, and upstairs is a bed and breakfast. And they had given me their card, and he is an attorney for the state of West Virginia in Charleston, West Virginia, and she's a school teacher. And I need to call and see if they still own the building, but I think they do, because they've kept it up so nice, which is good to see, because, you know, I can still go by and see my grandmother's house. And so many memories of when I was a child walking these streets, and what fun it was. Danny Joe Egnor, her Dagmar's youngest brother, said that they were so poor and that their dad could not hold a job, and the family lived at 222 Guy Ann Street, which is now a vacant lot, but we are at 3515 Brandon Road, and this is the house that Dagmar purchased for her family, because like her brothers and sisters all said that, you know, she paid for them to go to school, she provided for their needs, and this is a really nice house. And so this is the very home that she purchased for her family here in Huntington. So I hope you've enjoyed your trip here to Huntington and finding out a little bit more about a West Virginia girl named Virginia Ruth Egnor, and Hollywood knew her as Dagmar, but her friends knew her as Sissy. So, hope you've enjoyed our time. I hope you have a wonderful day. God bless you. I hope you will subscribe and like. And if you have any ministry needs or prayer needs, that the information will be listed down in the description of this video. So have a great day.